Speed. Man's need for it is undeniable. He expresses it in the sky with thrusting jet aircraft, on the ground with screaming race cars, on water with thundering hydroplanes and magnificent sailboats. He uses power from explosive fuels, power from the wind, power from his own muscles, whatever it takes to attain the objective. That ability to go so fast that the wind literally splits before him. In these sports of raw speed, we see man's uncanny ability to become one with a machine. The art of using a tool to perfection. Speed. Man is always searching for more, until his wheels seemed to be spinning in futility. It was this problem that led a group of engineers from Audi to come up with a revolutionary all-wheel drive system. In their quest for speed, they've found an advantage. Some say an unfair advantage. The unfair advantage is every racer's secret dream. That special bit of technology that gives you such superior speed that you're literally able to blow the doors off the competition at will. The term was coined by the late Mark Donoghue, who enjoyed such an advantage in his turbocharged Porsche 917 that dominated Can-Am racing and set new speed records in the early 1970s. The engineering genius behind this awesome 917 was Dr. Ferdinand Piëch, the grandson and namesake of Dr. Ferdinand Porsche. Shortly after achieving such great success with his 917, Dr. Piëch left the ranks of Porsche and joined another German car builder, Audi. His first challenge to his new engineers: come up with a breakthrough idea, an unfair advantage that will set Audi apart from the pack. To find such an advantage, Dr. Piëch's engineers looked not to the future, but to the past, to a concept nearly as old as the automobile itself: all-wheel drive. The idea first appeared in 1902, but the hardware proved so cumbersome it found a home only in inelegant utility vehicles. Over the years, innovators such as Bugatti, Miller, and Ferguson tried to apply the idea to racing cars, but their machines proved unruly, difficult to drive. The advantage eluded them. Then in 1967, the idea resurfaced at Indianapolis when Andy Granatelli introduced a radical turbine-powered all-wheel drive machine, and driver Parnelli Jones came within 7 miles of winning the 500 before the failure of a trivial part sidelined him. All-wheel drive was soon banned from Indy competition as being outside the mainstream of automotive design, and racing engineers turned instead to aerodynamics in their quest for the unfair advantage. In 1981, Audi engineers felt they had found the secret at last: a center differential, a new way of distributing the power between the front and rear wheels. They call their system Quattro. To prove the worth of their new system, they entered the World Rally Championship, where a vehicle must demonstrate speed over some of the roughest, slipperiest roads in the world. If all-wheel drive were to be an advantage, it would be here. Soon the Quattros were showing their heels to the competition. Driver Walter Rural describes the experience.
So it's like an explosion. Maybe, let's say, like a rocket taking off. That's how you could imagine it. It's really nothing like ordinary acceleration. Sit back and enjoy Walter Röhrl's balancing act, driving at the limit of physics. Basically, with these cars, if you start thinking, you're too slow. What you need is a kind of sixth sense. You have to be one step ahead the whole time. With this car, if you wait till something happens, then it's too late. You have to anticipate. And all this talk you used to hear about driving by the seat of your pants, if that's how you feel what the car is doing, then it's probably the last time you'll ever feel anything. Because if you wait that long, you'll go off the road.
All-wheel drive also required a different driving technique. Left foot braking to turn the car, as Walter Röhrl demonstrates here. That run, camera and all, set the fastest time on the stage. With 4 World Rally Championships in the record book, the Quattro turned toward America. The target, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb, an event dominated by single-purpose, single-seat sprinters with rear-wheel drive. American rally champion John Buffum was first to try the Quattro here.
The Audi 4-wheel drive is very, very important because when you have a lot of horsepower, you need to get the horsepower to the ground. And you'll see as the open-wheel cars and even the stock cars, when they start, they spin their wheels furiously. And this is very exciting, but it doesn't get you to the top as fast.
1985. French rally champion Michel Mouton drives a Quattro to overall victory at Pikes Peak, trouncing over 60 conventional machines in the process.
You are always sliding one side, the other side. It's like a ballet, it's like a dance, you know, it's fantastic.
I looked at the car and I watched her run. Did a very good job in her driving. The car was very, very, very much ahead of anything that I'd ever seen before. Audi has done an awful lot of work on all-wheel drive. And I saw things that just astounded me. And I started doing a lot of thinking, a lot of talking, a lot of studying, trying to see the best way to come back and get the record back in the IMSA name.
I've seen him every time he's done this. And the record that was set in '85, most of the people around here thought, well, that's about it. It's as fast as anybody's going to go. Evidently, this car is even impresses him, and he's hard to impress.
In 1986, Unser tries the Quattro for himself and sets the fastest time ever in the race to the clouds. Walter Röhrl followed a year later with another record. And since then, every Pikes Peak winner has turned to all-wheel drive for their advantage. Next, putting the power to pavement. All-wheel drive had proven an advantage on dirt, but would it work on pavement? The high-banked Talladega Speedway. In a secret test, Bobby Unser makes an attempt at a world closed-course speed record in a specially prepared Quattro. Despite the aerodynamic disadvantage of the boxy four-door sedan, he brakes 200 miles per hour and sets 10 new international speed records. Confident that they had an advantage here as well, the engineers decide to enter a production-based Quattro in the 1988 Sports Car Club of America Trans Am Series. It was also the first time that team drivers Hurley Haywood and Hans Stuck had tried racing an all-wheel drive machine.
My competitors found that we were going to be racing an Audi, and they took a look at the car the first time. They kind of laughed and said, "You got to be kidding. This is a car that we race that looks very much like the sedan that people can buy in the showrooms."
Everything was new to me, and I thought to myself, oh, is that the right thing I might have towards the end of my career with 37? Nevertheless, we didn't know where we are till we came to the first practice in Long Beach.
The first race, the streets of Long Beach. Let's ride with Hans Stuck as he makes his qualifying run. The 5-cylinder turbocharged Quattro is no match for the more powerful V8s on the straightaways. Its advantage comes in the tight turns.
I had to adjust my style of driving because Trans Am drivers are hard drivers, tough drivers. They don't look very often in the mirror. If you come from behind, especially with a car like the Audi, you can brake very late, that they don't expect you to come so close to brake so late.
By the way, was good for 4th starting position. In the race, Haywood surprises everyone with a 2nd place finish. Still, most experts regarded this as beginner's luck. Then on the twisty Dallas street circuit, as track conditions begin to deteriorate, and others were slipping and sliding, Haywood uses his superior traction to record the first victory for an all-wheel drive system in such a major production car race.
The track was very slippery during the race, and I just cruised around the car because of the all-wheel drive system. I could put it any place on the racetrack and get away with doing just about anything that if you tried it in a conventional car, you would have crashed.
He follows with another victory on the streets of Detroit, taking the lead on the very last lap. Then at Niagara Falls, rally champion Walter Rural tries his hand at road racing and runs away from the field, making it 3 victories in the first 5 races. Meanwhile, Hans Stuck, one of the fastest men in the world in a rear-wheel drive race car, was still struggling to come to grips with the all-wheel drive system.
Sooner or later, I thought I have to win a race. Audi is paying me a lot of money, so I look like a fool. I got to win a race now.
Suddenly, he figured it all out and went on a tear. First place, Cleveland. First place, Brainerd. A victory at the Meadowlands. His secret?
It's a left foot braking. You have this turbo lag, you know. When you go off the throttle and you go back on again, it takes a little while before the turbine builds up some pressure. So on these sort of chicanes where you don't have to shift down, I go on the brake with the left foot and stay on the throttle with the right foot. So I still have my boost pressure. And then when I leave the brake off, the car moves forward like a skyrocket. That's what it's all about.
Mid-Ohio. Rain. Ideal conditions for all-wheel drive.
And Sunday morning when I got up at about 7 o'clock, I saw the rain and said, oh, Christ, that's what we need.
With the others struggling to just stay on the rain-slicked track, Stuck enjoys a Sunday drive.
It just has always the feet on the ground, fantastic traction, fantastic cornering, very, very good. And with the four-wheeler, you know, it was the experience of all my life. You always had good traction. You could go over the hill with all the cars sliding with the power on. So just great stuff.
By now, the competition was beginning to feel that the Quattros were enjoying a bit too much of an advantage. They accused the team of sandbagging, holding back in practice, not showing their true speed, then turning it on late in the race. The other teams lobby for a rule change.
We need all the help we can get to keep our Goodyear tires under our cars. We don't have the advantage of the all-wheel drive Audis.
We can't go head-to-head with the Audi or the V6s because of our added weight.
There's no way that we can run at the end of the race with the Audis. I expect Hans Stuck to show us his heels here very soon.
The Sports Car Club of America officials agree and decide something must be done to negate the all-wheel drive advantage. They handicap the Quattros with additional weight, smaller tires, and a reduced turbo inlet. But Stuck isn't fazed.
To beat Audi, they can give us as many weight as they want, and they can restrict our tires. As long as we can run on a four-wheel drive car, we'll be looking very good.
Even with the handicaps, the Quattros prevail, and by season's end, Audi had won the Manufacturers' Championship, and the hard-charging Stuck captured 4 first places. His strategy?
My driving strategy is to go always 100%, or as close as possible. If I sit in a race car, I adjust my mind and I want to go for it. Oh, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good, but if I'm as a professional racing driver, you have to be like this.
It was the steady Haywood, however, who brought home the driver's title. His strategy was a bit different.
Championships are points game, and you have to get the points at each race. You have to protect yourself not to get into trouble with the slower traffic. And I found that it was very beneficial for me to make my move in the latter part of the race, protect my car, keep it in good condition, and then make a charge in the latter part of the stages. My 2 teammates, Hans and Walter, would do the charging for me, and in many cases they wore the competition out.
But to Trans Am officials, the Quattro's advantage seemed just a little too unfair. They aren't invited back for next year. Coming up next, the IMSA GTO. In 1989, the Quattros enter the IMSA GTO Championship Series, where the rules are different. The cars are allowed wider tires, wide enough so that the others may have all the traction they need with just 2-wheel drive. IMSA officials feel confident the all-wheel drive Audis won't enjoy an unfair advantage here. But the Audi engineers have no intention of giving up their edge and build a pair of exotic tube-frame cars complete with a space-age telemetry system to monitor every aspect of their performance.
We were all pretty much excited because, as you know, we have had a new car, a tube-frame chassis, a new engine, a 4-valve engine, and then in the first official practice session when we were almost holding off the pace, and we were right there, you could hear the stones falling down from our heart. That we were happy and pleased that the car is right with the pace.
Here we go, Audi Quattro.
They debut on the streets of Miami. Despite strong competition from other high-tech factory teams, the all-wheel drive Quattros again appear to have the upper hand, impressing veteran ESPN commentator Bill Adam in the process.
This car is doing things I have never, ever seen any vehicle do. Look at this. Pulls to the inside, late braking. Look at the car. Completely stable under braking. No problem at all. On a rail.
But racing luck turns against the team. Both cars are forced out of the race. The team must regroup.
We didn't finish Miami because our gearbox broke. We found that we had too much horsepower for our gearbox and drive shafts. And then I must say, from Miami to the next race, to Summit Point, there was only about 9 weeks in between. But what the Audi crew was able to achieve in these 9 weeks was the maximum I've ever seen in my 20 years of racing. They were working so bloody hard, day and night. I doubted, actually, when I came to Summit Point, we're going to run longer than 1 hour.
Summit Point. The Quattros not only run for an hour, they go the distance, finishing first and second.
It was a tough competition. I was very, very pleased to win the second race for the Audi in '89. After Summit Point, we went straight to Mid-Ohio, believe it or not, another win, which was a little bit of a problem with my friend Wally Dallenbach, because I had him off the track, which I do very, a few times in my life, in my whole racing career. But I had to. We were actually traveling both along side by side, and I saw a small car almost stopping on the left side of the track, and I had to move to the right, and I just knocked Wally off. And I saw him spinning on 120 mile speed and banging right and left. I said, oh, Jesus Christ, what have I done now?
Then I was lucky to win the race in the end, and on the podium I apologized immediately to Wally. But I think still up to now he owes me one.
But Stuck has things pretty much his own way, running up a string of victories at Topeka, Sears Point, Watkins Glen, Lime Rock, and Laguna Seca. And in some races, like Sears Point, his toughest competition turned out to be his all-wheel drive teammate, Hurley Haywood.
I was something like 30 seconds behind my leading teammate Hurley Haywood, and believe me, I had to take all the tricks I knew to get him back, and I got him 2 laps from the end in a very strong maneuver.
By now, Stuck had clearly become comfortable with the car, adjusting his own flamboyant driving style to the all-wheel drive system.
To adopt my driving style to all-wheel drive suspension in cars was not so easy, because my style always was a little bit spectacular, like going sideways and people saying he has more flies and bugs on the doors than he has on the windscreen by driving so much sideways. And it also helped me in my sports car driving. I got smoother and more, not so aggressive and not so, how can I say, not so a twitchy driving style, and it improved everything. It teaches you to drive a car smoother.
His secret of speed?
I tell you, you gotta have a sensor in a certain place of your body which is behind yourself. You know what I mean? And this sensor which you must have in the popo, as we say in Germany, I think this is the most important thing. To go fast, to feel the car sliding. That's why I have no upholstery in my driving seat. If you ever check this out, you know, I only have a little layer of some cotton or whatever it is, or it's a Nomex stuff. I don't want to have some upholstery in the seat because I have not enough contact then. This is, I think, so you must feel it with your back when the car starts to slide and everything. And this sensor is specially working under wet conditions.
Wet conditions. Rain. Conditions that can strike fear into the bravest of drivers. Quattro drivers Stuck and Haywood took a somewhat different view.
It is the nicest feeling. It is nicer than Christmas, holiday, birthday, and New Year, everything together, to pass a Cougar or a Nissan on the outside of the corner. You know? It's such a great feeling, you won't believe.
It's so much fun driving these cars, and when you can pass guys on the outside or the inside, it really doesn't make any difference, and go by them with such speed that we have, it's tremendous fun.
Next, how the advantage paid off. After a decade of competition, all-wheel drive had, without a doubt, proven itself to be an unfair advantage under all conditions, outrunning the competition across the parched deserts of Africa, up the ice-covered Alps, through the tight, twisty streets of Dallas, and around the high-speed curves of Laguna Seca. Yet on any given day, the Quattros rarely excelled at raw speed. Their secret was different. Others were able to go out and set a blistering pace in the beginning. The tracks usually get slippery as the race progresses. Tires lose their grip. And when conventional cars were forced to slow down, the Quattros, with their consistently superior traction, went on the attack. When the going got slippery, the Quattros didn't fade. This proved to be their unfair advantage, their secret of speed.
People can go fast in a race car for one lap, and they can beat the race car and use the curbs and bounce off of things. And as they wear themselves down, I just simply attack. And you can do it so easily and so effortlessly, and they just don't know what hit them.
And we could spray our power over 4 different corners, you know? So our tires in the end lasted longer, and when the conditions got worse with oil and grease and some debris on the track, we had a better traction on our car, and this gave us an advantage.
Speed, Man's need for it is undeniable. He expresses it in the sky with thrusting jet aircraft, on the ground with screaming race cars, on water with thundering hydroplanes and magnificent sailboats. He uses power from explosive fuels, power from the wind, power from his own muscles, whatever it takes to attain the objective. That ability to go so fast that the wind literally splits before him. In these sports of raw speed, we see man's uncanny ability to become one with a machine. The art of using a tool to perfection. German Autobahns. Highways with no speed limits. Roads where you can drive as fast as your car will go. Here, the competition to be Top Gun is as intense as on a racetrack. Join us now for a flat-out ride as we uncover the secrets of speed on the Autobahn. There you are, in the fast lane, driving at top speed, 240 kilometers, 145 miles per hour, when suddenly a car appears in your rear view mirror. His lights flash, you move over, and in a split second, he's by at 165. But this is no racetrack. It's a public highway, and what you're witnessing happens every day in Germany. The phenomenon is known as the Autobahn. In a country with the highest concentration of vehicles in all of Europe, how are the Germans able to drive at these speeds? To find out, we turn to perhaps the fastest driver in all of Germany, Hans-Joachim Stuck. The son of a famed Grand Prix driver of the 1930s, Hans Stuck's spectacular sideways driving style has made him a racing legend in the homeland of the Autobahn. A champion in open-wheel cars, touring cars, and prototypes, twice winning the 24 Hours of Le Mans. We met up with Hans at the Nürburgring race circuit, where he arrived precisely on time, thanks to a rather quick trip on the Autobahn.
It was about a 780 kilometers drive from Kitzbühel, my home, to the Nürburgring. And in the morning at 4 o'clock is not many trucks and obviously no traffic around Frankfurt. And I could manage it to go in 3 hours 15 minutes, which is an average speed of 187 kilometers per hour. This is only possible in Germany, believe me.
Just how fast has Hans driven on the Autobahn?
I must say it was with my Porsche 959. I've done 325 kilometers, and then I tell you, it really narrows. It's kind of an experience. Actually, the Autobahn corners are designed for high speed. Any of those which have no particular speed limit can be easily done by 200 kilometers or more, and they are so smooth, you know. And everything, especially when we have many 3-lane motorways now, it's so fantastic to go there.
On the Autobahn, your speed isn't regulated by the police, but by the type of car you drive.
Mercedes driver thinks to him everything belongs on the motorway. He never has to drive on the right side. And a BMW driver thinks he has to overtake the Mercedes driver. And then in between is the Audi drivers and the Volkswagen drivers and Porsche drivers. And they all want to be the fastest one, so sometimes it's kind of a racetrack on the Autobahn.
Although some sections of the Autobahn do have posted speed limits and radar traps, on the unlimited sections, you're on your own. What you can't do, however, is pass on the right, and the police have a unique way of nabbing violators.
They're driving along with private-looking road cars, and they have inboard video cameras, and then they film you from the back, and they afterwards get you to the police. But very, very seldom they stop you on the Autobahn right away. For right-hand overtaking. Here you must only overtake on the left side, and because obviously many people drive too much on the left side, then other people try to overtake on the right side. Just jump from 2 and 3 cars. And this is something the police is really looking for, and they make video films, and then you come home and 4 weeks later you get a little blue letter, and it says you have done this and that, and it has been filmed. And then in some occasions you can lose your license for a couple of months, you know. So some of the German racing drivers have more points in traffic violation than in the championship, which is not good, obviously. On the other hand, I must not good, because the last 4 years I didn't receive anything, and all those points you score, not in the German championship, but for doing any traffic violations, you get rid of those after a certain number of years, and I think in September or October this year, then I'm on 0 points and can start from fresh.
What is the secret of speed on the Autobahn?
Concentrating, never drive over your personal ability. The slower I go with the fast car, the less I'm concentrated. Then you start to telephone, adjust your radio machine, talk to your co-pilot, play with the children. The higher the speed is, the higher is your concentration. And this is, I think, very, very important. I have a couple of good friends. They had accidents while they were making phone calls in cars. Doing a phone call is a very, very dangerous thing during driving, because you lose concentration. So when you drive. Forget about anything else you do.
Surely, with traffic moving at these speeds, there must be a tremendous number of accidents.
It's absolutely not right. Concerning the statistics in Germany, the Autobahn is the place where we have only a minimum of accidents compared to normal country roads, or even in city roads, like where city limits are enforced. The Autobahn is well known for a high average speed, and because everybody is so aware of the speed, people are higher concentrated, and we have only a minimum number of accidents compared to other roads.
But much of the credit must also go to the inherent stability engineered into German cars, a characteristic often described as the sneeze factor.
The sneeze factor is something new to me, because I always try to keep my eyes open during sneezing, but it's pretty difficult. Yes, but you're right. You are in a situation that you can look down to your radio or put another disc in, and when you look back after a second or two, your car is still in the same direction. Our road cars are Autobahn tested, because if you achieve like going a high speed all the time, you must have a high stability in the car, you must have fantastic brakes, you must have very precise steering, very precise handling. The car had to be stable for side wind, and this can only be tested on a high-speed Autobahn.
But why have the Germans so steadfastly resisted speed limits on their Autobahns?
I won't like it. If I buy a car for, let's say, $80,000, $90,000, like a Mercedes or BMW or even Audi, I don't want to have my maximum speed regulated. Those cars are built for much higher speed, like to 60 to 70. And when I buy this car, I want to use this speed. I think that the Germans really love their cars. But also the Americans love their cars, but in a different way. The Americans, they love their cars and they hide them back in the garage. And they take them out only on sunshine, on bright days, and they polish them and they protect the front of the cars against stones and everything. The Germans are more proud of showing their cars all the time, and also showing the muscles of their car. Like putting big wheels on and then showing how high the corner speed is, or getting an engine tuned and then show the others how to out-accelerate them. And that's a bit different to the States.
Could the unlimited Autobahn speeds of Germany ever work here in the United States?
I think an Autobahn could work in the States, because the American cars get much better now. They're getting better on road holding, they're getting better on brakes. And as you see that in some states you have already 65 speed limit, and between 65 and 85 it doesn't make much of a difference, honestly. And I think then when they could bring the speed limit up slowly, not you say today you can drive 65 and from tomorrow you can drive 85, they would step by 10 miles coming up with the speed limit, no problem. It's just a matter of getting used to it, of being more aware, being more concentrated, and then it would work fine.
Next, record speed runs on the Autobahn. Germany, 1938. A series of record speed runs are scheduled on the Autobahn to demonstrate the technological accomplishments of the Third Reich and celebrate the glory of being the fastest. A showdown between Germany's most powerful, streamlined machines, the Auto Union Silver Arrows and the Mercedes-Benz.
I know this section of the Autobahn from Frankfurt heading to Karlsruhe, where the speed limits where the speed records were set. And I must say, in my opinion, an incredible thing to do. They were trying, as far as I remember, something like 700 kilometers. 700, which is really fast. It was very, very difficult to keep the car in straight line speed. And only a little thing that was on the road, for example, could have been a fatal accident.
January 28, 1938, the day of the record runs on the Frankfurt Autobahn. The Mercedes of Rudolf Caracciola is first, and he hits 268.9 miles per hour, the fastest a car has ever been driven on a public highway. Bernd Rosemeyer is next in the powerful 16-cylinder Auto Union. In his first run, he reaches 265. Then, on his second attempt, as he approaches 275, his car is struck by a crosswind and careens off the road. Rosemeyer is killed instantly. Recently, Hans Stuck had a chance to take a trip back in time and relive the experience of driving one of the famed Silver Arrows.
It was the car that my father drove originally back in '36, and also Bernd Rosemeyer. And they took it out of the German museum. I had the chance to drive it on the Avus, and I must say, to me, it was an incredible experience. Because now I understand more about what kind of heroes the drivers were in those days. Starting from protection of the driver, starting by driver comfort, no seat belts, no body form seats, you know. To brake the car, it was hard work. The gear shift was not very precise, and the road holding, unbelievable. You know? You just looked at the steering wheel, and the car was starts to oversteer. And at the Arrows, the car that I drove, my father's car, first gear was geared up to 135 miles. Can you believe it? The most difficult thing was to put the power down, because with the horsepower they had, with 750, 800 horsepower, and the small tires they had, you were almost unable to give full throttle up to third, fourth gear. But the wheels were just spinning. It was a big wheel because you had no power steering. So, and it didn't sit like comfortable. You had to sit very close to the wheel, the arms like this, to have the force to steer the car and everything. To do a 500-kilometer race here in these cars, boy, those guys must have really been heroes.
The Nürburgring. Some call it the ultimate Autobahn, a purpose-built racetrack running through the forests of northern Germany. 17 miles long, over 180 turns. A circuit so demanding that modern Grand Prix drivers refuse to race here.
As when it was built, it had no sort of runoff areas. It had just bushes right and left side. And an old word was, when a car crashed, it said, bush open, car went through, bush closed, you know, and then it was gone. Sometimes they couldn't even find the cars because the hatches were closing very quickly afterwards. So with nowadays race cars with little distance to the ground and with ground effects, it's impossible to ride the circuit. You can't have a landing with a jumbo on a grass strip, so you must have a proper landing strip for this, and that's the same with racing too. If the tracks don't develop with the cars, then they get outdated as quickly as possible.
What was the secret of driving the original Nürburgring circuit?
Oh, it need to have really a big heart. It need to have a good knowledge of the track, because so many corners you can't look around because they're separated by trees and hills and valleys and mountains. So the knowledge was one of the things, and the second were the weather problems. It could very well be that here, start and finish, we had bright sunshine like today, and down in Adenau, which is about 6 miles, half the distance, a thunderstorm could be done. So it was always kind of an adventure to run around here. And one lap was so long, something like 10 minutes, because it's 25 kilometers long. so it lasted forever. But it was my favorite and still is my favorite.
Today, a new, shorter, safer Nürburgring has been constructed. But the old circuit is still there and open to the public. A place where they can flex the muscles of their Autobahn cruisers.
And weekends is open here, even nowadays. And you buy, I think now you have to pay something like 8 or 9 marks. You can go around here with buses, motorcycles, everything is on the road. And then they try to run their car to the maximum. And I've spent a Sunday here recently, and you hear the ambulance going 6-7 times a day when motorcycle drivers falling off and cars all over. So that's quite often happening. But on the other hand, I think it's good that people have the chance to try their car on a closed circuit. If they would do it on an open road, they would maybe injure other people that have nothing to do with it. So here, if they injure themselves, that's their problem, you know.
Next, the fastest on the Autobahn meet on the racetrack. The German Touring Car Championship. Here, the quest to be the fastest car on the Autobahn has been formalized into a championship racing series where the German manufacturers all put their reputations on the line.
Just a bit more speed involved it, and a bit more door-to-door business and mirror-to-mirror business. And it's a big difference. The Mercedes are not the best from the start on, you know. As I told you that the Mercedes drivers believe with the star on the hood, the Autobahn belongs to them privately. On the race course it's different. It's one weekend is Audi, one weekend is BMW, and next weekend is Mercedes. So the order is a little bit more organized.
The series began in the 1970s and quickly became noted for its somewhat aggressive style of competition. Today, with heavily financed factory teams from Audi, BMW and Mercedes going head-to-head, the series has become even more competitive.
Yeah, it is very competitive. We have, for example, sometimes 15 cars in qualifying within 1 second. And that's the difficulty because with your driving ability, it's not possible to brake like 20 meters later or go with 5 miles more speed around the corner because the cars are also equal, you know? So when anybody tries to brake 20 meters later, you're going to have a door-banging accident. Or when anybody tries to go 20 miles faster around the corner, he's running off into the grass or over the curb.
With the competition so close, the secrets of speed in this championship depend upon the latest computer technology.
They can tell us on all the tracks we know, here in Germany and most of them in Europe, what lap time is possible to do during practice. And we started this in the beginning of this year. In the meantime, we come so close that before an official practice session, up to 1/10 of a second, they can tell me the time I must be able to do. Isn't it incredible? Wow. So if sometimes I'm 3/10 slower, engineer comes and says, Stucki, not so good on the road today? I say, no, don't worry, so I have to try it again. And this is kind of a very good system because it checks you out personally, you know. Sometimes you come and say, yeah, the car is oversteering, understeering, I'm missing 3/10, but it isn't, so you got to go out and do it again and force yourself to do it. I think it's good.
Is it possible for a driver to better the lap time so carefully calculated by the engineers and their computers?
I did it once with Porsche. In Fuji, I was a half a second faster than the computer or Norbert Singer, my engineer, told me. And then Singer couldn't believe it. He said, it's impossible, you couldn't do it. I said, yeah, I did it. So we went home, went for dinner, and at night time, 1 o'clock, my phone rang. It was Singer on the phone, and he said, Stucki, maybe now I know what the problem is. Which gear are you taking turn number 5, for example? I said, yes, 4th gear. Aha, I have it in 3rd gear only. Here's the difference. One of the secrets is the popometer. Here, this thing in the back. Because this gives you the contact to the road. It tells you what the car is doing, if it's understeering, oversteering, the wheels are spinning, the brakes are locking. So this is the deepest point of your body in the car, that is the closest to the ground. It tells you actually what the car is doing, and then it goes up into the head, of course.
Last year's German Touring Car Championship, a new challenger enters the competition, the Audi V8 Quattro.
When I hear from Autosport that we are going to compete with the Audi V8, I never ever believed we would be in the end of the championship within the first 5 people. Of course, you would never think that an Audi V8 could compete an BMW 4-cylinder. That's why the cars are altered by weight. So an Audi basically weighs 300 kilograms more than a BMW M3. That's because the Audi has more horsepower and has all-wheel drive system.
Driving the largest, heaviest car in the series, Stuck must rely upon the Audi all-wheel drive system for his advantage.
First of all, it's a very big help in traction. When the others start to go through their tires towards the end, they have spinning wheels, oversteering cars, and we spray our load on all the 4 corners, so we can go more conservative on the tires. Especially out of slow corners, we have a super traction. You always see cars coming out of the corner of slow corners with the back end hanging out with oversteer. We don't have it because we have all-wheel drive.
Throughout the season, Audi, BMW, and Mercedes trade victories, with each race winner receiving not only championship points, but a special weight penalty as well. The equivalent of placing a hefty serving of bratwurst in the rear seat for the next race.
To prevent an Audi or a Mercedes or a BMW winning every race, the winner gets 25 kilo of lead in the car, which is almost 50 pounds, maximum of 100 kilo. So this tells us we cannot win every race.
The battle for the championship goes right down to the wire. The final race of the season at Hockenheim. To win the title, Stuck's Audi must finish first, while his BMW competitor, Johnny Ciccato, can come in no better than 4th. The Audi team bring in reinforcements, entering 3 cars. In front of 80,000 fans, Stuck finishes first, with his 2 Audi teammates right behind. Ciccato's BMW is 4th. This year, Hans-Joachim Stuck and his Audi V8 Quattro are kings of the Autobahn. Next, the seduction of speed. What is it about speed that makes it so important that the Germans have steadfastly refused to place limits on the Autobahn? So seductive that race drivers are willing to risk their necks trying to reach the maximum.
The speed is a drug, you know. Others eat chocolate, others like Coke, others like to eat caviar, and others just like speed. If it's just, I say, it's motorcycle, speedboats, cars, it's a sort of a drug. That's the best explanation I can find. There are many other things I like to do besides racing, but to be able to race a car is not only the feeling of speed, it is to be, it is that not the car drives me, that I drive the car. I am the one who tells the car what it has to do. I put it into 4th gear, 5th gear, I make it to go right, I make it to the left, I make it to spin it. I'm the boss, you know. I decide what I want to do, and sometimes the car does not what I like, then you have an accident. And always to come to this limit, to this sort of edge, because if you go 100%, you're perfect. If you go 99.9, you're not perfect. If you're 100.1, you're history maybe, and that's all about.